Welcome to FlyEaglesFly News, where Eagles fans get the latest, fastest, and hottest updates. Hit subscribe and fly high with us. The shockwaves started quietly, almost like a whisper inside the building. But then the tone shifted and the whispers turned into something heavier, something uncomfortable. The kind of tension you feel before a locker room blows up. According to people close to the situation, JALEN Carter did not hold back in private conversations that somehow made their way through the Eagles ecosystem. The story being told is that Carter questioned effort, preparation, and even accountability, not just from a couple of fringe names, but from respected teammates who are supposed to set the standard. The way it is being described, his words were not emotional rants, but cold, direct observations, which made them hit even harder. He allegedly pointed to moments where discipline slipped, where focus wavered, and where comfort replaced hunger for an organization that prides itself on toughness and unity. Hearing that one of its most dominant defensive forces feels surrounded by complacency is explosive. The front office, according to the rumor mill, was not spared either. Carter is said to have hinted that some decisions prioritize optics over football, reputation over raw competitiveness. This is why people inside the building were stunned. Because Carter is not known publicly as a vocal critic, he lets his play talk. And when someone like that speaks up, the message carries a different weight. What makes this situation even more intense is that these comments reportedly came from someone who has delivered on the biggest stages, someone who has already tasted the highest level of success. That combination of credibility and frustration is what has everyone on edge, behind closed doors. The reaction was said to be immediate and emotional. Veterans who heard about the comments reportedly felt blindsided, some interpreting Carter's stance as a challenge to their leadership, others seeing it as a lack of respect for the grind they believe they still embrace. The coaching staff, if the speculation is accurate, found itself walking a delicate line, trying to determine whether Carter's words were a necessary wake-up call or a dangerous spark that could fracture chemistry. What complicates everything is Carter's reputation as a relentless competitor, someone whose intensity does not switch off in meetings. He is rumored to have questioned why standards seem negotiable for some players and non-negotiable for others. That kind of talk, even if rooted in a desire to win, can easily be taken as divisive. Some teammates allegedly agreed with him quietly, nodding along in private, but unwilling to say the same things out loud. Others felt he crossed an invisible boundary, stepping into territory traditionally reserved for captains and coaches. The Eagles organization, known for valuing strong personalities, now finds itself facing a familiar dilemma. Do you silence a star to protect harmony? Or do you let discomfort push everyone to a higher level? The fact that these questions are even being asked shows how deeply Carter's comments have cut into the foundation of the locker room. The front office reaction is where this rumor becomes truly volatile. Sources close to the team suggest that decision makers were furious, not just because of what was said, but because of who said it and when. Carter is viewed as a cornerstone, a face of the defense for years to come, and having that figure openly question organizational direction is unsettling. The speculation is that executives felt exposed, as if internal doubts were suddenly dragged into the light. Carter allegedly hinted that long-term planning has leaned too heavily on past success. That hunger cannot be assumed simply because banners hang in the building. That kind of critique strikes at the heart of team identity. For an organization that sells continuity and culture, being accused of coasting is almost unforgivable. Yet, some within football operations reportedly understand Carter's frustration. They see a player who has been fined, scrutinized, and disciplined, yet continues to deliver elite performances. And they wonder if his intensity is simply clashing with a system that prefers smoother edges. This internal tug-of-war between control and authenticity is what makes the situation so complex. The Eagles are not just dealing with a star speaking out. They are dealing with uncomfortable truths that may or may not be valid, but cannot be easily ignored. From the outside, fans are only seeing fragments, but inside the building the mood is said to be tense. Carter's past incidents, the fines, the ejection, the reputation for crossing the line, all feed into how his words are being received. Critics within the organization allegedly argue that this is just another example of Carter letting his emotions override discipline. Supporters counter that this is exactly who he is, a player driven by obsession with winning, unwilling to accept anything less than maximum effort from everyone involved. The irony is that Carter's on-field dominance is precisely why his voice carries so much power. When someone who consistently disrupts games, forces turnovers, and changes outcomes speaks up, it forces reflection, even if that reflection is uncomfortable. The Eagles, as a franchise, now face a crossroads. Do they rein him in and risk muting the fire that makes him special? Or do they embrace the chaos and hope it sharpens the entire roster? This is not just about one set of comments. It is about defining what kind of team they want to be moving forward. The speculation grows even darker when considering how this could affect future decisions. If Carter truly feels unheard or dismissed, insiders wonder whether that frustration could evolve into something more public, something harder to contain. The Eagles have invested heavily in him, not just financially but symbolically. He represents dominance, youth, and fearlessness. Losing alignment with a player like that could send ripples through the entire defense. Teammates might start choosing sides, consciously or not, aligning with either the outspoken star or the established hierarchy. Coaches might feel pressure to adjust messaging, to avoid triggering further backlash. Even the front office could feel forced to reevaluate how transparent it is with its stars. All of this stems from a rumor that Carter said what many think, but few dare to voice. Whether his comments were exaggerated or softened as they traveled through the building almost does not matter anymore. The perception is there, and perception in a locker room can be just as powerful as reality. This is why the situation feels so volatile, because it is no longer just about words, but about trust. As the story continues to circulate, one thing is clear: this is not a simple controversy that fades away quietly. Carter's alleged criticism has touched nerves at every level of the organization, from players to coaches to executives. The Eagles have always thrived on edge, on being underestimated, on internal battles that forge toughness. The question now is whether this particular conflict will strengthen that identity or tear at its seams. Carter stands at the center of it all, a player whose talent is unquestioned, whose intensity is undeniable, and whose words have reportedly ignited a firestorm no one saw coming. In the end, this rumor paints a picture of a team wrestling with its own reflection, forced to confront whether success has dulled its hunger. And if that is truly what Carter was trying to say, then the most uncomfortable possibility of all is that he might be right. As the rumor keeps circulating, the second layer of this story starts to feel even heavier, because now the focus shifts from what Jalen Carter allegedly said to what it reveals about the emotional state of the Eagles' locker room. According to whispers around the team, Carter's frustration did not appear overnight. It is being framed as something that slowly built up through small moments, subtle signs of disconnect, and situations where expectations did not align. Insiders speculate that Carter felt the standard was slipping in areas that never show up on highlight reels, such as practice tempo, film study intensity, and accountability after mistakes. From his perspective, if the team wants to stay at the top, there can be no room for shortcuts. The tension comes from the belief that not everyone shared that same urgency. This is where his alleged comments hit the hardest, because they were not just emotional reactions to a single incident, but part of a broader critique of mindset. Teammates reportedly sensed that Carter was speaking from a place of obsession, the kind that defines elite competitors but can also alienate those who operate differently. The Eagles have always sold themselves as a family, but families argue, and sometimes the most uncomfortable voices are the ones pointing out cracks in the foundation. Carter, whether intentionally or not, may have forced everyone to look at those cracks. The coaching staff, according to speculation, found itself in an impossible position. On one hand, Carter embodies the exact intensity they want on Sundays, a disruptive force who changes games without needing extra help. On the other hand, that same intensity, when turned inward, can destabilize the balance coaches fight to maintain. Rumors suggest that internal meetings became more cautious, with staff members choosing words carefully to avoid escalating the situation. Some believe coaches quietly agree with parts of Carter's critique, but fear that validating him openly would undermine established leaders. Others think the staff views this as a teachable moment, not just for Carter, but for the entire roster, about communication and respect. The idea floating around is that winning organizations are not silent, but they are structured, and Carter's directness may have bypassed that structure. Still, there is an unspoken acknowledgement that his standard is rooted in success. When someone who has delivered in the biggest moments questions complacency, it forces a reevaluation of comfort zones. The challenge is channeling that message without letting it turn into resentment. Within the locker room, the emotional divide is rumored to be real. Even if subtle, younger players allegedly see Carter as a model, someone unafraid to demand greatness. Veterans, however, may feel their legacy and leadership are being questioned by someone still early in his career. That generational tension is not unique, but when combined with high expectations and past success, it becomes combustible. Some teammates reportedly interpret Carter's words as motivation, a reminder that championships do not grant immunity from criticism. Others see it as unnecessary pressure, especially in a league where maintaining confidence is as important as correcting flaws. This difference in interpretation is what makes the situation so delicate. A locker room does not fracture loudly at first, it fractures quietly, through side conversations, shifting trust, and altered body language. The Eagles, if these rumors hold weight, are navigating that fragile phase right now. Carter may have believed he was speaking for the collective, but in reality, he may have exposed just how differently players experience the same environment. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The front office perspective adds another layer of complexity to the speculation. Executives are rumored to be concerned, not only about internal harmony, but about precedent. If a star player openly criticizes organizational decisions, what message does that send to others? At the same time, silencing such voices risks creating a culture where honesty is punished. Carter's situation reportedly sparked internal debate about transparency, empowerment, and control. Some within the organization believe stars should have a seat at the table, their competitive instincts informing decisions. Others argue that structure exists for a reason, and blurring those lines leads to chaos. Carter's alleged comments may have unintentionally forced that philosophical debate into the open. The Eagles are known for being bold, but boldness requires alignment. Without it, confidence can turn into friction. This is why the reaction is described as furious by some and reflective by others. It is not just about protecting image, but about deciding how much truth the organization is willing to hear from its own players. From a broader perspective, this rumor touches on a universal truth in elite sports. Success raises expectations, not just externally, but internally. Carter is rumored to believe that the Eagles should operate with the paranoia of a team that has never won anything, not the comfort of one that already has. That mindset is rare, and when it exists, it often clashes with more balanced approaches. His critics may label him volatile or immature, pointing to past penalties and incidents as evidence. His supporters counter that those same traits fuel his dominance. This tension between control and freedom, discipline and fire, is at the heart of the speculation. The Eagles must decide whether Carter's intensity is a problem to manage or a weapon to unleash. That decision will shape not only his future, but the identity of the defense as a whole. Rumors suggest that how this situation is handled could influence how future stars view their role within the organization. In the end, the most intriguing part of this story is not the outrage, but the possibility of growth. If Carter's alleged criticism leads to honest conversations, renewed focus, and sharper standards, it could become a turning point rather than a breaking point. The Eagles have always thrived in environments that outsiders perceive as chaotic, turning internal pressure into fuel. Carter, intentionally or not, may have reignited that pressure. Whether it burns constructively or destructively remains the unanswered question. What is clear is that this is more than locker room noise. It is a reflection of ambition colliding with structure, of a star refusing to settle, and of an organization being forced to confront its own comfort. As this rumor continues to evolve, one thing stands out above all else. When someone with Carter's talent speaks, even in whispers, the entire building listens. Whether they like what they hear or not, that's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.